There we go. Okay, so I have a book review because I just finished reading the Cat and Mouse duet of Haunting Adeline and Hunting Adeline, book one, book two. So basically, these are dark romance novels, and they have a lot of spicy, smexy scenes in them. They deal with real life situations that you've heard about. You may not have really experienced yourself personally, but you hear about them, and to me, they're real life situations, and um, so that's why they're called dark romance, because they're a little bit on the darker side. They're not your rom-com type of dealio. So the first book is Haunting Adeline. It's about, let me see here. It's about 584 pages long, and it took me about 4 days to read this. So let me read you the back. So it's a dual point of view. The manipulator is the FMC, which means the female main character, and the shadow would be the MMC, which is the male main character. So it's a duo book. It's like her chapter, his chapter, they alternate, they not alternate. And fun fact, I've been reading these with my friend Shauna. She's a little bit behind, so hopefully she doesn't watch this video. She waits to watch it after she's done reading this, because I finished this last night, the second book, and she's not even half. I'm not sure where she's at. She didn't say, but I know that I finished before her. But I'll read you the back, and then we'll get into the trigger warnings, because these are dark romance novels and you need to know your trigger warnings. The manipulator, which is, like I said, the FMC, the female main character. I can manipulate the emotions of anyone who lets me. I will make you hurt, make you cry, make you laugh and sigh. But my words don't affect him, especially not when I plead for him to leave. He's always there, watching and waiting, and I can never look away, not when I want him to come closer. The shadow, which is the male main character. Let me read back. I didn't mean to fall in love, but now that I have, I can't stay away. I'm mesmerized by her smile, by her eyes, and the way she moves, the way she undresses. I'll keep watching and waiting until I can make her mine, and once she is, I'll never let her go, not even when she begs me to. Okay, so I'll give you a quick, actually, I'll give you next. So this is Haunting Adeline, the first book. It says, to Amanda and May, Zayd and I will forever be yours. And you get a playlist as well with this book. The only one I recognize is The Weekend in here, but other than that, I don't see anybody else I recognized. But I'm going to read you the trigger warnings really quick, or try to read you the trigger warnings. Give me a second. Water. Okay. None of these conspiracies derive from a belief in anti-Semitism or QAnon, but from my own demented imagination. Common conspiracies in the media, see, like I said, like it's known, and in many occult horror movies my dad used to watch growing up. This book ends on a cliffhanger. The contents are very dark, with triggering situations such as non-dub con between the main characters, graphic violence, human, we'll say trafficking, but before that would be a T. I don't know if that's a word I can say. Stalking, child trafficking, but put a T before that. Sacrifice, mentions of death, and explicit sexual situations. We'll say sexual, so that way you know what I'm talking about. There are also particular kinks such as gunplay. Probably should have said that. As pew pew play. I can't say that word. Bondage and degradation. This book was previously taken down due to the warning, but you can also find them in reviews on my website, or feel free to message me directly. Your mental health matters. Okay, so let's briefly go over what this book is about. It's about Zayd and Adeline. Adeline is the FMC, like I said, and Zayd is the MMC, the male main character, female main character, obviously. She's an author who unbeknownst to her, has a target on her before Zaid comes barreling through her life. Um, and what happens is, so Adeline is this petite little girl, not little girl, she's probably like 5'2", but she's this petite girl, tiny, thin, you know, easy on the eyes. And Zaid is part of this worldwide organization that makes it his life's mission to take down smexual rings, you know, in the underground market. We'll call it the skin trade. It's his mission in life to take down the skin trade and eradicate it from, you know, existence on Earth. That's his mission. So he saves women and children and gives them a life after they've been traded, we'll say, like baseball cards. And that's his mission in life. He saves them, he rescues them, he gives them another life. He does the best he can in the dark web. He's super smart, you know, he has one brown, one white eye, slashed down his eye. 6'6", broad, you know, just described as very handsome and very, you know, bronze. Brawn, yeah, it's brawn, right? More brawn. And so after taking down a ring one evening, he's walking down Seattle and he sees Adeline at a bookstore doing a signing, because like I said, she's an author. And then from then on out, she became his little mouse. And he made it his mission to stalk her and make her fall in love with him by showing her the deepest, darkest sides of him. So that way, you know, when she does fall in love with him, she already knows all the bad things and, you know, all the people he's hurt to save other people from a terrible life. And he just basically watches her from a window until they finally do a lot of questionable things, because she never really consents to anything, but she does, but doesn't. And everybody that's read this book talks about the one scene that comes up first between them after he comes into her house. So what he does is, you know, he warns her that, you know, she's his, no man can touch her. And she goes to a club, not believing his threats. She brings home a guy, and he does not like that. So he told her, if any man touches you, their hands will be mailed to you in a box. He holds true to that promise. Those hands were on her doorstep the next morning, and she was freaking out. And so once that happens, he comes in later that night and gives her her punishment for not abiding by his rules. And that punishment involved the pew pew and the meow meow. And that's the scene that most people talk about in this book, the smexy scene that they talk about in this book. But there are others in here. The second one most talked about would be the Hall of Mirrors at Satan's Affair, which is a Halloween carnival that her and her friend go to. There's that scene, and before and after that scene would be the belt scene outside of the car as they're going to a party. And then the movie scene during the party, like the movie theater scene during the party. When they get to those spicy smexual scenes, they're detailed and graphic described. So that's why they're dark romance, because of that, but also the darker side of life. So like I said, so the target, unbeknownst to her, she was already targeted to be pushed into that lifestyle. Like, so without Zaid being on her side, it helped and didn't help, because it put that target even bigger on her, because now that he's with her, they're like, they don't like him because they know who he is and what he does, and they don't want, you know, their business to go out. So what do? They decide they're gonna kidnap her. So they make an attempt when her and her friend go to the carnival for Halloween, but it's missed, where him and a character that's got more development in another book called Satan's Affair. Satan's Affair is the carnival, but we're introduced to Sibby, who is a crazy little creepy like doll that, smells evil in people. If they smell rotten, they're evil. And she unalives a lot of people, well, because she's a character. But because he intervened during the carnival, and him and Sebi ended up unaliving all those politicians that intended to plan Addie and her friend. They were mad, and so they ended up setting him up towards the end of the book to get her. So they figure we'll distract him, we'll think he's taking down another ring to save women and children, when in fact it's a setup, and we'll be able to snatch her right from under his nose, and they take her. And that's how the book ends. It ends on that cliffhanger. They end up luring her out of the house under his protection of his men, because she gets a text from her friend who has also been kidnapped and taken, but they use her phone, and she comes running after her to go save her, which was her mistake, and they end up hitting her car. She goes in a ditch, and they take her, and she's taken by the people that run that ring. But as I said, the character development there's character development between the two. He basically just says he doesn't want a life without her. Let me see if I got some other things in here. I'm trying not to give the whole thing away, but I'm just trying to give you some things to like pique your interest. Because she's always trying to tell him to go away, but he doesn't listen. And then things happen that end up with them in bed. Where he says, he grabs my face in his hand roughly and brings his face down into mine. Minty breath and a hint of smoke washes over me. Keep pissing me off, Adeline. I do enjoy hurting you. It's music to my ears when I hear you cry. I struggle against him, muffled curse words spilling from my taped mouth. Another chuckle reaches his ears. You've been a very bad girl, little mouse. Mouse is the little nickname he gives her because she's, trapped under his control. We'll put that control, air quotes. You've been a very bad little girl, little mouse, he draws, his deep tenor vibrating through his throat, and I do enjoy showing you what happens to bad girls. Sweat pricks at my hairline and trails down my back. I'm still panicking, absolutely shaking with fear, but I have no idea how the hell I'm going to get past away from him. Tears prick at my eyes when I realize that I can't. His words from before filter through the panic. You can't escape me. His callous fingers lift up my t-shirt, exposing my black undergarments and flat stomach. I can't see them, but I feel his eyes devouring me. He continues to lift the shirt until I'm exposed. I hear a sharp intake of breath, revealing his desire. I can't say that next sentence. I can't say that word, but the jerk is cracked if he thinks it's because of him. You are absolutely exquisite, he breathes, his hands trailing across my stomach. Sometimes I can't even talk. I can read the words, but I can't say them sometimes. Over the fading marks he forced me on 4 nights ago. F off, I growl. Don't mind if I do, he tells me, his voice shadowed with desire and anticipation. Let's see, there was another part. Oh, it's right here. Oh, this is when he enters her. It says, are you going to kill me? I ask, slowly trying my best to mask the tremors racking through my body. I'm failing. Slowly he shakes his head. Why would I do that? I'm not sure how to answer that, he continues. I wouldn't do that, little mouse. I want to keep you. What if I don't want you to? He smiles. You will. I open my mouth ready to tell him about himself and his mama, but the words die on my tongue when he reaches up and a hand and swipes his thumb through across my bottom lip. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to allow you the opportunity to run and hide. If I find you, then I will deliver your punishment. If I don't, you go unpunished and I will leave. I pinch my eyes shut, a small single strand of hope threading throughout the hysteria. I know this house like the back of my hand. I know where the good hiding spots are. There are 2 rooms down there in the hallway on the bottom floor. The first bedroom has a tiny little nook in the back of the closet, just barely able to fit my body in, but I used to hide there all the time when Nana and I would play hide and seek. Fine, I whisper. How long will you search for me before I win? He smiles. I will give you 5 minutes before your blank is bent over my knee. Booty, we'll say. I huff, jerking my face away from his hand. He lets me go, but the smile on his face grows. Your time starts now, Adeline. Better run. I don't hesitate any longer. Turning, I bolt out the room, slamming the door shut behind me. I miss the amusement on his face when he watches me do so, but I don't give myself time to care. And that all is the premise before the pew pew scene and the meow meow, okay? That happens like in a few page, within like a page or so. Yeah. Because she's always yelling at him. A deal is a deal, little mouse. He looks up at the night scale. It is beautiful in here. I think it's only fitting that the punishment occurs here. Don't you think? It feels like we've come full circle. So like I said, that's all I'm going to read from that scene because I could get my YouTube channel taken down. That was the first book. Okay, book number 2 picks up where after she's gotten kidnapped and traded like a baseball card in the skin trade. So, he's in the hospital recovering from the bomb going off after he was trying to, rescue people from the dirty mitts of people that have those awful desires with women and children. And she is like being, bounced around until they put her in a house with other people. So it takes about 10 or so chapters, which is like, 2 months of her enduring all this trauma that I cannot talk about in this. This one is much, much, much darker than this first book. So if you thought this was dark and you're done reading it, I wouldn't continue further on this one because the first 10 or so chapters are super dark. So let's read the back. The Diamond, which is the FMC female main character, Addie, aka Zade's little mouse. Let me get some water first because my throat is a little parched. The Diamond. Death walks alongside me, but the Reaper is I can't even talk. But the Reaper is no match for me. I'm trapped in a world full of monsters dressed as men and those who aren't as they seem. They won't keep me forever. I am no longer recognizable, the person I've become, and I'm fighting to find my way back to the beast who hunts me in the night, which is Zade. They call me a diamond, but they've only created an angel of death. The Hunter, which is MMC, the Zade. I was born a predator with ruthlessness ingrained in my bones. When what's mine is stolen from me in the night, like a diamond hidden within a fortress, I find that I can no longer contain the beast. Blood will paint the ground as I tear apart this world to find her and bring her back to where she belongs. No one will escape my wrath, especially not those who have betrayed me. This is a bit longer book. This is just over 600 pages. I finished it last night. So let me show you. It's in 2 parts actually. There's the playlist. It also comes with the playlist. And let's author's note. If you're expecting a quick reunion, this book isn't for you. Don't worry, there's not any less spice. Important note. As some of you may know, the first book in this duet, Haunting Adeline, was banned due to the warnings, but it is so necessary to have this. But it's so necessary to have one. Those are available on my website. This book contains very dark, triggering situations such as graphic, starts with an R, but I'm not finishing it. These scenes are detailed, so please proceed with caution. There is also graphic violence and gore, torture, sexual assault, Kidnapping, psychological abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse, explicit sexual situations, human trafficking with a T, slave trade, grooming, severe PTSD, and very particular kinks such as blood play, stabby play. I can't really tell you. I'm not sure if I can say that word. Knife. Um, degradation, and I have no idea what that word is. Starts with an S. This book is significantly darker than the first. Please take these warnings seriously. Your mental health matters. I also forgot to say that while her and Zayd are playing cat and mouse in this book, she's also trying to figure out who unalived her grandmother. It's a whole like story because she inherited the house from her grandmother. So there's that little side story in this book of her trying to figure out who um, unalived her grandmother. And, the story behind that, there's that. I forgot to say that. So I wanted to mention that. So, like I said, the trigger warnings are 100% accurate in this book. It was really hard to get through the first 6 or so chapters because they are so detailed. There's a part in here with the heel of a high heel that hurt me reading it. I was like, ow. It was used for torture, not pleasure. So definitely read your trigger warnings and know what you can and can't handle. So it takes about 2 months before that she has to endure all this trauma and goes through all of this just, hell, and only to survive and get out. There's a guy in here that, actually kidnapped her in the first book. And, his punishment is to make sure all her wounds are cleaned. He has to take care of her, clean her cuts. When bad things happen to her, he sadly can't interfere because it'll be his life. And then when the time comes after she unalived a girl in the house that was planning to have her unalived, he helps her escape by taking out the chip from behind her neck because you can't just run from the house. They implant a chip in you so that way they can track you. So he helps dig it out. She escapes. He unalives the guards outside. She escapes and makes a run for it just as, Zayd figures out, where she is and how to track her. And he's like, where she runs, he's like, I'm going to look for her there first. If I know my little mouse, I know that's where she'd go. So he rescues her. And after he rescues her, since she's a popular author, they had to do like this whole interview and police, stuff. They're like, they had to come up with a lie as to what happened to her. Like they just said she was kidnapped and sold into the skin trade. Sorry, I'm a little parched. And what else? I'm trying not to give the whole thing away. All I can tell you that as she's learning to heal and become, adjust to her life and all the things that happened to her and, the trauma and heal from that and talk about it. He helps her, which I find to be the most endearing part of this book. He helps heal her scars by, it's hard to describe. He takes that pain away himself by showing her that you can live after all the bad things have happened to you. But I will never let you go type of deal. So he trains her to fight and protect herself as, they start taking out one by one everybody that hurt her and put her in that situation. It's like it's been his mission to eradicate the skin trade anyway. So she just helps him now. There's a knife scene that is similar to the pew pew scene in the first one. Not nearly, I would say, you shouldn't be surprised by that when you get to it in this book once you read it. This book actually is spicier with between Zayd and Addie once, she's able to let him touch her again, because like it takes a while. So let's see here. Because right here. Because, like, she freaks out one night because, you know, she has bad dreams and all she can hear are all the voices of the people that hurt her in the house for 2 months. So she picks up his, you know, thing, um, and she's holding it at him, trying to unalive him or trying to make the pain go away. And he's like, "Does this make you feel powerful?" He murmurs. Another sob breaks free, but I don't lower the weapon. "Does this make you feel alive again?" I scowl, but can't muster the courage to respond. I can't articulate what it makes me feel. I just know that it makes me feel something. "What you've forgotten is that the heart beating inside your chest isn't yours," he snarls. "It's mine. And if my heart has stopped working, then pull that trigger, little mouse. Mm, Hurt the rest of me. I'm nothing if I'm not the reason you breathe." I break and screw my eyes shut against the flood of tears, but it's like putting a piece of paper over a bursting pipe. My face contorts in pure agony, consumes me. I don't want to feel anymore, I choke out, barely getting the words out before a gut-wrenching sob bursts past my lips. "Let me. Addie, just let me hold you," he bites, his voice breaking. He tears the weapon from my grip and tosses it on the bed, and then I'm being swooped up into his arms, weightless, as he lifts me up against his solid chest. I open my mouth and I scream. I scream and scream and scream until my voice cracks beneath the pressure, until I fear my throat will shred from the force. I want to crawl outside of my body so desperately, just so I can escape this feeling. And then we'll go over, it says right here, "Sometimes I don't know if I'll ever be able to fully tolerate your touch," I confess in a broken whisper. "Are you okay with that?" he counters. "Is that how you want to live your life, fearing the touch of a man?" Me, because he's referring to himself. "Do I? Part of me wants to retreat in on myself and not let another man lay his hands on me for the rest of my life. I don't want to see the images flash through my mind every time I feel skin slide against mine. But then there's another part of me that rages and lashes out against that notion. The same part that allowed me to use his hand and that blank handle as a release." Talking about the airplane scene with the weapon. "I don't want those men to take more from me than they already have, because if they do, they'll never stop. I'll continue to hand over every piece of myself until there's nothing left but a chalk outline. I don't know how to be okay with it, not even with your own hand." He rasps. He pulls away gently, setting me on the floor. "You took back the power with the, we'll say the knife. With the knife, now you can take it back when it comes to physical touch. Let me show you." And then the scene gets spicier with that, and I will stop. And then we'll go here. Where is it? I don't mark my books because I'm not that type of person, a reader. Do, 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 do. Okay, this is what he tells her. "I followed you through lifetimes, Adeline. My soul needs you so badly that I've become a shadow destined to haunt you for eternity." Her eyes flutter and a little moan slips free, nearly writhing from the promise of haunting her soul. "She was effing made for me. If you think scars are going to turn me away, then you haven't seen just how cruel I can be," I rasp. And then, right here. "These will become mine too," as he touches her scars from the car accident and all the torture she endured in the house. "These will become mine too. I will put a blade to every single one and claim them as my own. The only thing you'll see when you look at them is me," I growl, and my hand flexing around her throat. "You wouldn't," she breathes, challenges sparking in her irises. I grin wickedly, delighting in the sight of her fear deepening, just as her arousal permeates the steamy air. I had to skip a whole sentence because I can't see those words. "That's it," I whisper, right before I tighten my hold around her air, and her air supply cuts off. "Fear me, little mouse, not the sick pricks who have no right over any part of you." So I told you he helps her heal. and they go over and he lays claim to those scars that she was given. And then last one, right here. You are always going to be the one that saved me, little mouse. He shudders, and I feel his body tightening as he nears his end. It's coming for me too, and I'm scared what will become of me once it hits. He goes faster, slipping between our bodies and sliding his fingers. I don't see anything at all. I'm skipping a lot here. My mouth opens on a near silent scream and can't say that. Supplying the sound of us breaking apart adrift in our decimation. He stills, but my hips have a mind of their own, rolling against. You are dust, and unto dust you shall return. Time ceases to exist, and by the time we both regain clarity, we're panting and trembling with aftershocks. My cheeks were wet with tears, still leaking from my eyes as I attempt to catch my breath, but I can't, not with the sobs racking my bruised throat. Zaid loops his arm around my neck, holding me tightly onto him as we both try to come back down from heaven, whatever that was. I love you too, he rasps. Every day we come a little closer to death, our bodies deteriorating just a little more, and if this is what dying feels like, then I never want to feel anything else. Those are just little, like I said, I even have to skip over some of these things because I'm like, a lot. I won't tell you how it ends because I want that to be a surprise. If you do decide to read these books, I could tell you, but I don't want to tell you how it ends, but it does have a nice ending. And we're also reintroduced to Sibby from this book because she escapes the mental ward and she needs a place to stay. So Zaid brings her and she ends up staying with them inside the manor. So we're also reintroduced to Sibby in this book. That's really the only other character that left that book but came back in this one. But other than that, like I said, these are dark romances. You gotta read your trigger warnings. I will probably be starting another book in that same genre, but that's more horror related. Yikes. Uh-oh. Hopefully, I don't know. I might have to cut that out. I don't know if I just flash the entire YouTube community. But if I do, I'll cut it off and I'll pick it up back here. This is probably the book that I'm going to start next, Butcher and Blackbird. I just picked this up at Walmart, but this will probably be my next read. So anyway, let me know if you decide you want to read these, and if you have any more questions, you know, that I could answer that I can't talk about in this video. But anyway, that is the cat and mouse duet of Haunting and Hunting Adeline. I enjoyed them. I don't know. Dark romance definitely is within my genre of books. So like I said, if you have any questions or you have any comments about these books, you can leave a comment or message me on Instagram if you don't want anybody to read your comment and that you're interested in reading these books. But that is, you know, let's do it. Good night.